Michael, you having a look at this, I mean, is this a sign of worse things to come? It's still an elevated level, ultimately, over any kind of historical perspective.
I look at this number and I look at the December stock sell-off, I look at us coming out of the holidays, I look at the government shutdown and the lack of a trade deal with China, and I say, yeah, this makes sense. Lowest consumer confidence in a year and a half. Question now is, government gets going. China trade deal, we get some news. The harder data gets better. If it does, will it drive this a little better? That's the key thing. The market drives the data. If the January rally is sustainable, that's going to affect consumer confidence. It's very reflexive. They feed each other. And that's really what I'm watching for this. I don't see much more than that.
Yeah, so it's a first entry in the list of economic data points where we're going to test whether people just write it off because of the shutdown. This is not a number that's particularly predicted in a very fine fashion, right? I mean, it's a survey. So aside from the correlation with the stock market, it's pretty difficult to figure out exactly what it's going to be. So I do think that's why the market didn't really take it too hard when we saw the downside disappointment.
So to what extent, though, Mike, when we see it in a consumer confidence number, as opposed to, say, industrial production or whatever like that, that it starts to feed on itself, that confidence goes and it falls away, the stock market's fallen as well, there's some negative headlines about trade?
There's the risk of that, but it seems as if right now, because the news flow is so overwhelming in the negative, I think what you want to see is wait 4 weeks, wait till next month's number, and there's a pretty decent chance it's going to look like a blip. But no, if not, it is something that will fall away as the overall economy is weakening.
You know, speaking of surveys, the ones that I'm watching are Thursday, the Chicago PMI, and then Friday, big day Friday, the ISM manufacturing. We're looking for about a 54 handle on that ISM. And that's another one where if you have purchasing managers feeling better about the economy, at least better than they did in December or perhaps November, if you have them a little more confident on a trade deal, we could see an upside surprise in that number, and then we're watching that number for the rest of the quarter. Are we seeing reflation? Are we seeing the business confidence come back? To me, that's more of an indicator than this number.
Yeah. What does it all, of course, mean for the Fed? Mike, meeting kicks off. No one's expecting anything tightening or loosening, for that matter, at the moment. But focus really on what? The rhetoric around the balance sheet in particular?
Most likely, yeah. I don't think it's going to be very easy for Jay Powell to be incrementally dovish relative to where the market already wants the Fed to be, because I really think that the market has kind of tried to price the Fed out for most of the year. Just about, I don't think that's where he's going to go. But yeah, a reiteration of the fact that whatever notional flexibility on the balance sheet. Now, we're getting these reports that the Fed is settling on a number for the final balance sheet size that's a little bit higher than they previously indicated, but they didn't indicate anything precise before. So it's difficult to know. I do think that's about the only thing we might expect.
China trade talks, we've barely even hit on this, right? And it's the other big thing that's happening that could potentially move markets.
Yeah. How about that?
Expectations?
Expectations, you know, I think that the thing that needs to happen here is China has to blink on the whole concept of intellectual property protection. They haven't done that yet, and we see what the United States is doing. We have today, you know, overnight we had the confirmation that Huawei's CFO is, in fact, there was an extradition request made. We hear more noise about criminal charges against Huawei. That's not going away, because it's one thing to say, oh, isn't that nice? China's going to import more energy products and soybeans. It's another to say, okay, we're going to stop stealing your software and everything else. God only knows what else. That's the big part of this. The question is China going to blink? When are they going to blink? Is that going to happen in the next 2 days with Liu He here? I doubt it. You know, we might be setting ourselves up for a letdown, but as soon as we start hearing the whispers and chatter about that, that's when the tide is turned, and I think we will.